Hey guys, it's Ross Scott and on the Spacecraft site. When Scott was down a couple of weeks ago, we went into Foyles in Charing Cross Road and I picked up this Interflug, East Germany's Airline by Sebastian Schmitz. There you see on the back cover. It's £25 and I've read this. It is worth every penny. It's absolutely fantastic. There's some amazing pictures in here. Pics of planes that they never operated for the airline, but was operated for the military in Interflug colours, like the Tupolev Tu-124, the 154. There's also a Caravelle, of all things, painted in Interflug colours. It was for a film. And also there's pics of the Baade 152, which was the second jet ever produced. I'm just going to take it out of his dust jacket so we can go through the pages. And there you just see there, lovely, the Interflug symbol. And it's like this, which is very 70s. And I assume very East German and stuff. So let's see, what do we have? There's an Aleutian Il-18 at night. Lots of different chapters. So it tells you about like how Berlin was split up and how you'd have to go to certain places, certain checkpoints to be able to go to the East Berlin airport as a Western passenger. There you see Tupolev 124, bring that up. Sorry, no, that's Aleutian Il-62, apologies. And there are some Tupolevs 134s. It tells you also about how when the two Germans set up, both their airlines were called Deutsche Lufthansa, but the West German branch had the better claim, so they changed their name to Interflug. That is an Il-14. And there is the Il-14. So it tells you all about this, the planes that they ordered, the specifications, where they flew them. It's absolutely fantastic. And then you get stuff like this, like the boarding passes and all that sort of stuff, timetables, ticket stubs. There's Antonov An-24, which they did some domestic flights, but they dropped their domestic flights apparently. There's some more there. Like I said, this is just such a great book. I absolutely love it. I've got books on multiple airlines. So yes, there's also this way you have to get the train to go somewhere to get the plane. So I've got one on BOAC, BEA, British Airways, Pan Am, this. There's probably some others as well. Ah yes, the Baade 152, the homegrown jet airline. You see it there, it has its glazed nose, which was common on the Eastern Bloc planes at the time. And there you see it rolled out the prototype. It's a very attractive blue cheat line with the engines in twin engines in pods under, and there you see a part of it being tested there under the wing there. And there are several prototypes under construction. That's what it would have looked like in the airline colours. There's another bit there, but it didn't meet the specifications. There wasn't enough demand, so it got scrapped. I think it's only the forward section of one of them surviving now. Now this bit's about the Aleutian Il-18, which is used for a long time. In fact, some of them were still flying for the airline when it went out of business. There's some more. I think 4 of them, after it went bust, were formed into the airline Berlin with an E on the end. And it flew for a few more years. And this is about the Tupolev Tu-124. Tells you again all about the entry into service, where it flew to. There's also a great chapter on like the cabin crew and basically how they were all under constant observation to make sure they were politically reliable. And some of them could only fly to Eastern Bloc countries. Some of them were allowed to fly to Western Bloc countries. There you see the caption says 2 of the noisiest jets ever there in the same shot. The Air France Concorde and the Interflug Tu-134. There's some more nice shots of it. Like, I didn't realise, and there's a chapter later in it that talks all about it, that they never flew the Tupolev 154 for Interflug. And it's like, they all flew it. Lot flew it, Malev, Tarom, Balkan, CSA, Aeroflot, of course, but not Interflug. Was too big. They did fly a bunch of these, and there's even there's a chapter on it in this. There's an East German TV show from the mid-80s called Meeting Point Airport, especially about the adventures of an Illusion 62 cockpit and cabin crew as they go to exotic Havana, Moscow, and Vietnam. And it showed up in my YouTube feed, and I watched the first episode. There's loads of great shots of airliners. This one particularly, that's a great shot of it as well. But also like Aeroflot Illusion 86s, Western aircraft as well. There's an Air France A310 and loads of stuff. They're very elegant, the Illusion 62, much larger than the VC-10. There you see safety card. There's a good one of it coming into land. Yes, this is a fascinating chapter. The Tupolev Tu-124 and why Interflug never flew them. Or did they? Because there they are. 2 Interflug liveried Tupolev Tu-154s. But they were flown for whatever the Stasi private air force was called. For the military and stuff. So yes, fascinating. Like I said, I'd never realised they didn't fly it, but then seeing it in those colours is great as well. Oh yes, this is mentioned as well. There's TG-44, I guess transport group, and there's Tupolev 134 there, and the planes that they had. You see here various Illusions and Tupolevs. Here is a very rare photo. An Interflug Tupolev Tu-124. And they had that 3 years before they actually had their own jets, the Tupolev 134. Yeah. Well, yes, a very rare photo, and I'd never seen it before. In fact, I'd only seen it in Aeroflot because I think CSA had some 104s, which I've seen a photo of, but I'd never seen a 124 in those colours. And there is another little 62. Yes, this is the bit about the cabin crew and the cockpit staff, the flying staff. Because obviously, a job for an airline in a communist country, that's like gold dust. That is like you hit the jackpot. So you have to make sure you didn't jeopardise it or your family by trying to defect. And they had no interest in defect, and they had it made. For a country like East Germany, they were at the top. And I think that might be a scene from Meeting Point Airport, because that guy looks familiar. Or he might just be a standard Interflug captain. Does it say? Might be on the next one. No. But there you see, the cabin crew, it's a very attractive colour of blue. Then there's just a bit just about some of the crew and their adventures. There's lots of interesting pictures. Ah, yes, and of course, solidarity work. So basically, flying arms and soldiers and medicines and famine relief and all that sort of stuff. During the Ethiopian famine in the 80s, they undertook a lot of work for that. And evacuating injured people from war zones, or generally injured people, taking them to East Germany for treatment. Erich Honecker, who was the leader of East Germany up until 1989 when it all fell apart, and Fidel. And obviously, I've been to Cuba as well. Great place. You should definitely visit if you get the chance. There's another nice one of an Il-62. So yeah, they flew all over, and obviously Vietnam, Angola, all those places. Yes. Look at that. TUI Interflug. Indeed, yes. This is basically as the wall was coming down, or had come down, or it was opening up and they could do much more. Interflug wasn't a member of IATA, so they weren't bound by price regulations. So they had very cheap flights from Berlin-Schönefeld in East Germany that loads of West Berliners would take on holiday to the Mediterranean and all those sorts of places. And like I said, there's a special crossing for the airport for Westerners. Then it's a bit about Interflug in popular culture. And there's a, what do they call it? Ostnostalgie, I think. Nostalgia for the old East Germany. Ah, yes. Here is the Caravelle. The colours at the front are a little different, so it's kind of a fantasy scheme. But yes, absolutely fascinating. So that's 3 different planes that I didn't know that they actually operated. Well, they didn't operate any of them, but you know what I mean. It's painted in their colours. And there's just some stamps and like commemorative letters and postcards that they issued. Some of them have got the L62 on it. Let's see. Then it's just a bit about the other operation, like crop dusting, navigation flights, that sort of thing. So the little commuter aviation fleet. Oh, there was a helicopter there as well. Then there's this Interflug, Intershop, and what's that other one? Interhotel. You know, it's like Intertourist in the Soviet Union. They had their own shops and their own hotels for the Westerners. And of course, they were much better stocked. And they only accepted hard currency. That's the Interflug office building under construction. There is one of their shops. And then there's a bit about some of their accidents as well. This is after one of the seats, I think, 134. That's, I think, an L62 that had crashed. And there is another one there. Now, this is one of their A310s, and there's a great double-page picture of one of the A310s there. But, you know, there was that incident of the Aeroflot A310 that crashed on route to Hong Kong, where the pilot's son was in the cockpit and it all went to hell. This particular A310 over Moscow, whatever it was, it kept going into like a nose-up attitude, but it kept roller coastering like 5 times, I think it mentions in here. And they only just managed to recover it out of like its dive several times. So yes, very scary. But yes, that is the cabin of their A310. One of which is still with the German Air Force, I believe. I think the other 2 are in Iran now. It's interesting how the A310 and the 767 basically split the Eastern European market between them. Interflug, Tarom and CSA had the A310, Malev, Balkan and Lot had the 767, and Aeroflot had both. There is an absolutely fantastic picture. That's probably the best picture of an Interflug A310 I've ever seen. It's a very modern livery even now. I mean, so at the time, it was absolutely cutting edge, that livery. Just the flash under the chin, all white fuselage, titles, and the logo. There, and that's just again some of the baggage tags and like destinations it would fly to. Oh yes, and I didn't know this at all. They also operated a DeHavilland Dash 8 in that same all white livery. And there it is there. This is it now. It's still flying like 30 years later in, I think, Canada. So there you see it there. Flew their regional routes. And then just, I think, some reminiscences of passengers and stuff. Yeah, like some of the... They would fill in the crew, basically it's like the progress of the flight and stuff. Again, some other memorabilia, like a ticket wallet, ticket, and that's the downtown ticket office. And you see it in East Berlin. All right, so this is an interesting chapter right after the wall fell, because I remember at the time there was talk of British Airways investing in them. That came to nothing. They formed Deutsche BA instead. Lufthansa, which I didn't know or I'd forgotten until I reread it, leased Interflug's Tupolev Tu-124s and operated them. And they were doing like joint flights and stuff. And this will be some of those flights here. It's the mayor of Dresden at the time. And there is the A310 with one of the 134s. They wanted to operate the A310s in a fleet of about 8 737s, and they reckon they could have survived as like a charter / low cost carrier. But it came to nothing, unfortunately. So at the end, and there you see it there. There was talk of this Intercondor, where a joint operation with the Condor Group, where one of their 757s would be painted in this livery. Some Interflug pilots and crew would be trained to fly it and to do like charter flights. They even selected and started training the cockpit crew, but that fell through, unfortunately. But yes, Intercondor, that would have been interesting. There's a couple of more pics of helicopter, someone boarding their flight. Yes, the Aleutian Ill-18. We've said some of them continued to fly for several years after the end of Interflug under Airline. Yes, and that is it here. It mentions there are some shots of it. There's like charter flights, cargo flights. But fortunately, the equipment was quite outdated. And it just mentions a bit about their aircraft that are on static display, and it lists locations. It has some of the pictures. That was the Listener Fleet 2, which was the license-built version of the DC-3 in the Soviet Union during the Second World War. More Aleutian Ill-18s on display. And one of their 134s viewed from the back. And there's the interior of one of them, and that might be the same plane, I'm not sure. And then there's this chat to the end. A village with an Aleutian. I assume it's in a museum and there's a small village there. There it is. And that might be the building. Oh no, that'll be the building there. And that's the interior of it. There's more like a hotel room. And I think that is it, just about. And that was when it arrived. Its final landing. So yes, Interflug, East Germany's airline, absolutely fantastic. So that's 4 planes, 5 including the Baade, that I'd never really seen pictures of in Interflug colours before. So there was the Baade, there's multiple pictures of the Baade 152, all of which were fantastic. Then there was, of course, the Tupolev 124 and the 154, the Caravelle, and the Dash 8. I knew about the A310 as well. But yes, brilliant, worth every penny. If you ever come across it, pick it up. It's absolutely fantastic. Highly, highly recommended. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or suggestion for upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed, or like the video.